Zaragoza, and I'm a mathematical science and German double major, and I studied abroad in Berlin, Germany for an entire academic year. So in terms of housing, I did have two options to choose from for the Berlin immersion programs offered through UCEAP. I had the option to choose from finding my own private housing within Berlin or opting for the student dorms offered through the universities. I specifically opted for the private housing within the apartment in Berlin. I had spoken to other students who had gone abroad on the same specific program that I was going on. What they told me from their experiences in the dorms, it was kind of like freshman year all over again, except with a bunch of international students. I kind of wanted to just keep exploring and really immerse myself in the culture that is offered throughout Berlin. It's very rich, it's a very international city, so I really wanted to get to know that side of Berlin as opposed to staying in that little bubble with the other international students, so I opted for private housing. I spoke to the on-site support staff in the Berlin Study Center at UCEAP. They showed me kind of how to get started on finding my own housing, and within a week and a half, I would say, I was able to luckily find housing in a very nice neighborhood within Berlin. It's called Friedrichshain. I actually lived really close to Alexanderplatz. I lived on KARL MARX ALLEE, which is very famous for the communist buildings that are there. So I actually lived in one of those really nice buildings, and I also had an elevator, and my rent was cheaper than it is here in IV, and I had my own room. So in terms of housing, I loved it. I had a hard time adjusting with the food a little bit, I would say, mainly because I'm more used to the Mexican cuisine, so I like spices. And in Germany, that's not what really grows there, so it ends up being a little bit more expensive. Luckily, I was also able to find a little Mexican store that had just little Mexican spices and different ingredients that you would need to make enchiladas, for example, which I did make for my friends when I was there. But I did get used to the potatoes and the sausages eventually. It's not really just that. That's what's so great about Berlin. The most Berlin food to eat was created by Turkish immigrants, so the doner kebab, that food was amazing. It was cheap, it was delicious. The food was cheaper, groceries were about the same, but my rent was significantly cheaper, and the quality of the living in general was a lot better. In terms of transportation, I could have bought a bike. Biking is definitely a common way to get around. Now, you can also just use the Metro bus or the U-Bahn or the S-Bahn. They run 24/7. They do run a little less frequently in the middle of the night, but they still continue to run, which is amazing. Something that I loved about Berlin. You can be out and you knew you wouldn't be completely stranded because there was always going to be a bus, at least a night bus coming for you. So they did have all those options. It's cheap for us because we get it for free since we've already paid for it with our student fees. Public transportation over there will actually get you somewhere really quickly. My favorite pastime was just kind of exploring different parts of Berlin. We would just get off in a random U-Bahn or S-Bahn stop, and I would just kind of explore the area, and there was always something great to look out for. The one thing that did kind of bother me, the student life isn't as strong. These higher learning institutions are mainly that, higher learning institutions. They don't really have a lot of clubs or different orgs and stuff like that like we do here where we have events that are on campus. You go to the university to get your education, and then you leave the university to be with your friends. In Berlin, I ended up having my school friends, and then I had my outside of school friends. Not all of them were attending the university. Some of them were just working straight out of high school. Others were just taking a break. Others had started and decided that they didn't want to continue that path. I did join a sports class similar to the recreation sports that you can do here in the rec center. My friend and I, we did a yoga class, so we met other German students that way as I wanted to go to a culture that was completely different than mine. There's so much history within that city itself. You have World War One, you have World War Two, you still have the Cold War, and all these different separations that I had no idea. I had the general overview of what they teach us in America about what goes on in Europe. I typically don't like it because you get to hear the side of the winner. We all know what the outcome of World War II was. We all know what the outcome of World War I was, and then how they ended up reunifying after the Cold War. I just wanted to hear it from the side of the Germans and see how they told it. See how they reprimanded their own selves for that, and how all these different issues had affected the way citizens lived. Why shouldn't you study abroad in Germany?